Hello again. I'm very pleased to be here, and I'm glad that you are back. As you know, this class is called Social Entrepreneurship, a Grassroots Revolution. Today I'd like to talk about Doctors Without Borders, a nonprofit and a project, and a project we looked at earlier, Back on My Feet Running Club. What I'm wanting to do is apply that scale that I developed to projects that we know are successful, and there's what to me is a fairly important point that I'm wanting to illustrate, and we'll get to that very soon. I would like to mention the MOOC web address. Just about any information that you would like to find out about this MOOC can be found there. Also, our Facebook page. All you need to do is search for Social Entrepreneurship Program. And I'd also like to mention the optional book. It can be ordered. The ordering information is on Facebook and at the MOOC site. You do not need this book to excel in this class, but it is available for those who might be interested. We have already applied what I'm calling Keith's scale to the project idea that involved teaching English to refugee elders. These next applications will be quick. I simply want to apply my scale a couple more times before we move on. And so let's take a look at Doctors Without Borders. As you may know, this is a very successful international nonprofit that sends teams of physicians to areas of the world that are in desperate need of some type of medical intervention. Even though this program already exists, and we know it is extremely successful, I'd like to see how it scores. And one of the reasons I want to see how it scores is because I don't think it will score well on my scale. I want to show that some successful projects will score low on my scale. As I mentioned in the last video presentation, my scale does not predict success. My scale identifies difficulties for startup. The range of points is from 0 through 10, with a high score indicating a strength of the project idea. I want to mention again that in one of my video presentations, I think I said that the range of scores for each item is 1 through 10, and that was incorrect. The actual range is 0 through 10. So, here are the scores I give Doctors Without Borders. For seriousness of the problem, it seems to me that the issue that they are addressing is very serious, and so I give it a high score of 9, with 10 being the very top score possible. On the item, amount of human labor required, it seems to me that there's a fair amount, a fairly large amount of human labor required, with teams of people traveling to different parts of the world, and teams of physicians, and the support team for those physicians, both the traveling team and the at-home team, I assume is fairly significant. So I view this item, amount of human labor required, as not being one of the strengths. It's a bit of a weak point insofar as the project idea is concerned. The next item is an even weaker point, in my opinion, level of skill required. We know that the key people who are delivering the service are physicians. I'm sure there's a team of nurses along as well. So these are highly skilled people. And as we are looking at project ideas, it is the projects that do not require high skill that are going to score high on this particular scale item. The next item is financial cost. And I assume that this is fairly expensive. I have not done a lot of research on Doctors Without Borders, so there's a fair amount of speculation that I am engaged in, but I assume the cost is fairly high. Now, on the next item, we see a high score. That's a good thing for the project idea. Ability to obtain volunteers. This is a compelling issue, helping people in different parts of the world who are in desperate need of some type of medical intervention. I assume that this is the type of project that can successfully obtain volunteers. The other items on my scale: ability to generate sales. I've scored this a 1, indicating that I'm not seeing very much opportunity to sell something. It seems like they might be pretty well locked into not generating income for the projects through this avenue. However, the next one, ability to obtain grants and donations. This is such a compelling issue that I think that I've scored it highest possible, a 10. So I see that as a strength, a great strength for this project idea. Also, emotional support from clients, strong support. The people who are receiving these medical services in the different parts of the world, I'm assuming they strongly support this project. And the local communities in which these patients are being treated, I'm assuming the local communities are very supportive also. So a score of 10. But here again, this last item, bureaucratic challenges, I see this as a potential weak spot with international travel, obtaining visas and obtaining permission from the government to bring teams of physicians into a particular area. It's just one of those items that causes more work, and it doesn't mean it can't be done. In fact, we know this project is a success. It is being done. But in terms of the project idea, we can anticipate bureaucratic challenges, which results in a low score. So the total score is 60, and this is a fairly low score. The average item score is 6, which is just a little bit above the midpoint of 5. So not a really high score for Doctors Without Borders. Recall what we're doing is we're looking at the project idea. We know that Doctors Without Borders is highly successful, but this project idea scores fairly low on my scale. Doctors Without Borders had several challenges when they started, and since we know that they are successful now, they obviously overcame those difficulties. Now let's take a look at that other project that I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, what's called the Back on My Feet Running Club. This was the project started by Ann Mollum. You may recall that she is the long-distance runner who started a running club to help men in a homeless shelter in Philadelphia. And I think this project might score high on my scale. Please note the reference, the website address. Please feel free to take a look at this project by Ann. It's a very fascinating project. Here is my guess at appropriate scores for each item. The project topic is a running club for men at a homeless shelter. So the first item, seriousness of the problem, I score a 6. That's not terribly high, just slightly above the midpoint of 5. Amount of human labor required, I'm not seeing very much human labor required, so I gave it a very high score. Level of skill required, I am not seeing a high level of skill required, which is a benefit for this project idea. I give it a score of 9, very high. Financial cost, this project does not cost very much money. So some high scores there so far. Ability to obtain volunteers. I view this as a compelling project that attracts attention of people, and volunteers can be secured. I gave it a high score. Ability to generate sales. I don't see much opportunity for selling something here, so I gave it a score of 2. Ability to obtain grants and donations. I think it's compelling. I think donors and funding sources would like to fund this project. Emotional support of clients. Those people, those men from the homeless shelter who choose to participate, I think there would be very strong support. Emotional support of the local community. I think the whole community, the several neighborhoods around the homeless shelter would be very supportive. Score of 10. And bureaucratic challenges. I am not seeing hurdles. I'm not seeing difficulties. I'm not seeing bureaucratic difficulties for this project. So a high score of 9 from me. So the total score is 82. And this is a pretty high score, with the average item score being 8.2. So Doctors Without Borders is an example of a project that had several issues to overcome. And Back on My Feet is an example of a project that had few issues to overcome. Comparing these two project ideas, I much prefer the running project because it is simple. We know that the Doctors Without Borders project has been a big success, so I applaud them. But in terms of looking at project ideas, I am a big fan of simplicity. I encourage you, when you start, to begin with a structurally simple idea. As you apply my scale to your project ideas, remember that the greatest value is to identify potential problems. My scale does not predict likely success of the project idea. Within my scale, there is no measure of how hard a worker you are, how efficient a worker you are. There's no measure of how well you deal with other people. There's no measure of how well you network. You can network with other organizations. So my scale has one purpose, and that is to identify problems that relate to a startup. My scale does not relate to predicting success of a project. It is now time to address your written document that identifies multiple details about your project idea. I call this the Project Development Report, and I will be addressing that in the next presentation. Thank you again for being here. I've enjoyed it, and I hope to see you in the next presentation.